Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of the Data Room. Today, I'm joined by two phenomenal guests. We have Delaney and Jake Berman, who I met at the Lilly Startup Career Fair at Rice earlier this semester. And I'm super excited. They're small business owners starting a business creating hot sauces and non-dairy cheese. And I'm going to pass it off to them just to tell you guys a little bit more about what they do.
Pretty cool. Thanks for
Hey,
having us.
yeah, super stoked to be here. So Delaney and I actually started our businesses independently.
Mhm.
Uh, she started her non-dairy cheeses while she was a student in the MBA program here at Rice.
Mhm.
I had been working in fermentation, specifically brewing, and started doing hot sauces at home and whatnot. And over the years, it kind of grew and grew and became the seed of a actual potential business. And then recently, this past October, I actually moved out here and we fused our companies and decided to give it a shot here.
Yeah. Um, That was because I had more of a business background that Jake didn't have, and he had more of the product education background than I didn't. So we figured we'd fit better as two co-founders than two independent founders.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, why don't you guys just give us a little bit of background? Like, how did you get into business? What got you into fermentation? And, like, kind of what would you attribute to your current position now?
You want to start?
Yeah, what got me into fermentation was homebrewing, and I would say specifically a few different books and video series. There was the It's Alive fermentation series by Bon Appetit with Brad Leone. Um, and then the Noma Guide to Fermentation was sort of my early stages guidebook and kind of fermentation Bible to understand how to do things safely and experiment with different flavor profiles. But yeah, it really started in home brewing, and a lot of the same yeasts and bacterias will be used in bread, beer, hot sauces. So it's kind of having an understanding of fermentation was, I think, what allowed me to really branch off into each separate entity.
Um, I got started because we've been long time plant-based eaters. We were raised vegetarian, which was still pretty rare back in the 90s. And went vegan after watching a documentary called Forks Over Knives in like 2011. My mom and I went vegan then. I was in boarding school at the time and had to figure out how to eat vegan in a campus dining hall and then how to do that again in college. So started working with the dining hall management to find recipes, work them into the menu plans, and really kind of fell in love with recipe development and cooking then. I hadn't spent much time doing it before then. Cooked a lot for friends through college. Used to have like dinner parties at my house, and then took a job as a paralegal because I always had planned on going into law. Um, Worked in DC at a big, firm in litigation, and just really didn't love the culture. Felt like I didn't have much agency to work on the things I cared most about. Realized that I wanted to be in food and plant-based food full time. Quit my job, moved to LA, worked as a nanny and personal chef. Knew at that point I should get an MBA because I had no business background. I studied philosophy and history. So I wanted to understand some basic business, finance, accounting, strategy. Started studying for the GMAT while I was working in LA. And as soon as I, found Rice and learned about their entrepreneurship program within the MBA, that made it pretty clear I wanted to come here. So came here, COVID hit, and I graduated last May
Yeah.
Awesome.
and started working on this in school.
And really, I'd say both of us have had an interest in cooking and food since we were very young. My
Yeah,
dad started teaching me and really both of us how to cook.
we grew up
Uh,
cooking.
but yeah, we grew up like watching Food Network and cooking vegetarian food. So kind of, I would say we'd always had an interest in that, even if we didn't see it as a business opportunity. It definitely, I think,
Yeah.
for both of us grew out of necessity and wanting to do something that we love doing.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, a little similarly, my parents, when my sister and I both went to high school, they instituted a policy where we each had to cook one meal a week. And
It's
so,
fair.
yeah,
It's fair, yeah.
through like over time, I started experimenting a little bit, got more confidence, finally moved beyond just making nachos every meal. And it's actually pretty fun. I get to learn.
Absolutely.
And it's really satisfying when you can consume the thing that you made yourself rather than at a restaurant or
Yeah,
the dining room.
absolutely. I think that's a big part of why I wanted to try breads and kombuchas and hot sauces at home was you can actually see what's going into it, and so much more food system now is like crazy preservatives that if you're cooking at home, like you're never gonna use so many of the ingredients that are finding their way into our food system.
Okay. So I'm curious, like, why was your family originally plant-based in their diet?
So like in the 80s, I think when my mom was in college, she was eating a piece of meat and just had a moment where she realized what she was eating and it kind of grossed her out and she couldn't really eat it anymore. She was like cutting it and saw something and was like, oh, I can't do that. And when she and my dad met, I think he went vegetarian about 2 weeks after meeting her.
So that might have been a slight correlation.
He says it was just because she explained it really well and he was, that makes a lot of sense. I'll do it too. I think there may have been some motivation to impress my mom, but
Yeah. But 30 some odd years later, I think
yeah.
they're still happily married. So whenever it was, it worked out.
Yeah, and then just sort of serendipitously, one of my mom's friends from high school was a producer on Forks Over Knives.
Oh, well.
He knew we were vegetarian as a family, and so he sent it to us to kind of be like, I was working on this thing, I thought you guys would like it.
Yeah.
So we just got, I think we just got like an advanced cut of it,
Mhm.
just this documentary. And then it was really happened to be one of the first, if not the first, like plant-based and health
Yeah.
documentary that gained a lot of traction in the US.
Yeah.
Cool. Now let's kind of transition a little bit away from food. Like as business owners, kind of overseeing your operations and really being the driving force behind your business, like what's been on you guys' mind recently?
I can start packaging. So I mean, even 2 weeks ago at a market, I was unloading hot sauces and dropped the box. We currently packaging a glass bottle for the hot sauces.
For both.
Well, for both, yeah, for both products. But obviously they broke when they fell, and we've been kind of toying with the idea of switching up packaging. But so many things that you may not consider or um, other than just the design and functionality of the product, like shelf life can be improved. So many different, things can be worked on. So I think we're in the midst of changing up our packaging, probably for the cheese before the hot sauces.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're definitely motivated by um, creating a product in a way that's as sustainable as possible. And one of the ways to do that is through changing our packaging. We're trying to reduce our emissions. Something like, and this is for a 2 ounce jar. We use a 4 ounce jar, but the emissions are about 20% for switching from a glass to a plastic 2 ounce jar. So
You mean it?
20% of the total impact,
Right.
glass to plastic. Um,
So lower impact to plastic. Which
right.
is surprising to most people. It was surprising to me.
Yeah. It takes so much energy to create the glass packaging. You have to heat it. So it's very breakable, which creates safety hazards. You have to ship it long distances. It all certainly adds up.
It's very niche.
So yeah, packaging is
Yeah.
trying to understand where we're headed in that realm and how to make sure our products are tasting as good as they can for as long as possible, so our customers can enjoy them.
Right. And real quick, before we go to Delaney, with the packaging, like it seems like it's probably a pretty new kind of field to investigate. Like, how do you go about approaching a new idea that it's so important to your business, but you may not have experience with it prior to starting your business?
Definitely no prior experience. Yeah. Um, it's just going and researching, and Delaney's done some independent research as well on packaging, which kind of informed where I was looking, but just kind of dive in head first and look up what the different types of plastics are. Um, Whether we want to do more traditional, like goat cheese style packaging, which is just the sleeve, just the like sort of shrink wrap, which is great for shelf life, great for shipping, but a lot of consumers, you get home, you unwrap the goat cheese, you have to put it in something else. So
It's
it's
not great for user experience.
right. So we're trying to find that middle ground of something that's efficient, lower emission, and I mean, really everything that we do is guided towards making sure our customers enjoy our products as much as possible. So yeah, it's definitely a balance there.
Awesome. And Delaney, what's been on your mind recently?
Yeah, so I this whole process has been very funny. I think, going in, I was like, what entrepreneurship is, you got to figure out a product that people want, then you figure out how to make it, and you figure out how to sell it. But you end up spending a lot of your time each day on tasks that you would not expect to spend a lot of your time on. My biggest focus lately has been on marketing and trying to learn how to do social media, product photography, food
Yeah,
photography
yeah.
well.
Creating Instagram reels.
Yeah, like not. I mean, I've had social media since I was pretty much in college, I guess. Late high school, early college for me, but uh, not something I've ever been super active on in terms of content creation, and then it's been taking up a lot of my week lately. Yeah, and then figuring out market strategy, working on packaging, and then managing. Yeah,
We're the whole company, so if
yeah,
something needs to get done, and a lot of things do need to get done, it falls
taxes
to
over the next few days will
one of
be.
the two or both of us. So
Right. So something I'm curious about is like, how do you balance your time between kind of marketing to a broader general audience and hoping it sort of catches on versus like actually being in maybe the farmer's market or wherever you sell your products and where you kind of have more control over the actual sale of the product?
Yeah, so I would say our focus right now is not on really creating any sort of viral content. We sell the hot sauces online, so those are accessible to everyone. But the cheeses, since they have to be refrigerated, refrigerated shipping is very costly at this small scale we're at right now. Um, so our biggest concern right now is just figuring out our sort of brand voice, learning how to make content, and then making content that will be engaging and informative. I think since we have sort of novel products or more specialty products, that there's a big customer education piece that goes in. Um, Hot sauce is a little more straightforward, but I think there's a story there to tell in terms of brand and the fermentation that's really cool and unique from a lot of other brands. For the cheeses, we get a lot of questions on, well, okay, so how do I use this? Like, it tastes really good, but how do I use it? So our biggest focus there is creating recipe content, showing how to use it in everyday life or for entertaining. So that'll be, the main strategy behind all of our content for now.
yeah,
Yeah. So to kind of go back to something you just mentioned, like consumer education, I think a lot of times, innovators have certain ideas, but they're not necessarily sure that the public can see the same vision that they have. Maybe they have more technical experience or more knowledge about a certain field, and the general public might not quite understand. And I even have some business ideas where I think like this could be a really great idea, but I'm just not sure if the average person can really see that value. So what kind of advice would you give for the kind of customer education process?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to start with as much customer feedback as possible. So when I started this in New Enterprise, so the Rice folks will know, anyone who's taking entrepreneurship classes, with Hassam, and they have you start with, you find a problem that, this is a problem I've been experiencing, at least on the cheese side for like 10 years, right? Never loved any of the dairy free options. Then we talked to a lot, my team talked to a lot of customers. We just sort of got on Instagram or texted friends of friends, asking anyone, have you eaten plant-based, dairy-free, vegan cheeses? What has your experience been like? Can we talk to you about it? So we did that. I sort of had an idea going in that everyone was going to complain mostly about taste and texture, which they did, but really more than that, everyone focused on nutrition and how if they're eating a plant-based food, they want it to be healthier than the animal-based version. So we tried to take that feedback and make sure it was central to product creation and to create something that people would actually want.
Mhm.
But then beyond there, since our cheeses are like spreadable right now, they're closer to like a goat cheese or fromage frais, but a lot of what people expect, especially with non-dairy cheeses, is the shreds and slices category, which this is just a totally different in terms of taste, visual, and
Texture.
function.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to show people how to use it in everyday life. But I think the key is still making sure that you're building something that people are interested in. That
Yeah.
has to be the first step.
Conveying a vision can be very difficult and is absolutely a very vital piece of building a small brand. Um, I think, I mean, for us, for food, it's a little bit easier when you can have people,
Yeah.
have people taste what you're making and explain to them how it's different. Like for us, the big difference in the cheese, at least, is that we're not taking most of the shreds and slices are a blend of starches and oil, just designed to kind of create a certain texture or melting profile. Um, we never wanted to create anything just to melt. We want to make a cheese that tastes good, made from natural ingredients with very minimal processing.
That has protein and has nutrition that's not
Yeah,
just empty calories.
similar nutrient profile, in fact, to what we're trying to replicate, which is just a dairy based cheese. Um, yeah, for us, it's been the market. It's an incredible opportunity to engage with customers and explain what this is and what we're doing, but far more importantly, how it tastes to them. So that feedback loop has been instrumental in developing where we want to go.
Yeah, and luckily, I mean, luckily and unluckily, the thing with food is it has to taste good first and
Yeah.
foremost. Like, that's the biggest priority. So if you have something that at least tastes good and you can get in front of customers who can sample it, it's like half the battle. And then you just have to, like, once people sample it, most of the time they will purchase it if they're in the market to purchase something like that or have the capacity to do so. But then they just want to know how to use it. So it's not as much selling people on the product as showing them how it can function in their everyday lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's awesome. Definitely a lot of great advice there. So now you mentioned you're kind of working on marketing, you're looking into packaging, but what kind of like broader goals for the business overall are you guys focusing on right now? Maybe in the next like year and then maybe looking ahead to like the next 5 years.
Yeah, so I think we sort of have three branches of goals, I would say. One is in terms of R&D and product development, which I'll turn over to you, but I can talk about sort of strategy. Our goal is with the hot sauces, I think as of now, going to build it out largely as an e-commerce brand. So we'll focus on getting into retail, but we have this subscription box that's 3 unique sauces every quarter. And so finding customers who are sort of interested in hot sauce and want to sign up for something like that, making sure they know it exists.
Mhm.
And then retail as well. For the cheeses, the biggest focus is retail. We're not interested in having an e-commerce brand that's refrigerated. I think it's very challenging. So trying to find the right retail partners and be able to scale up operations to, supply those purchase orders if or when they come in, learning as much as possible in the interim. And we have financial targets and goals as well, which I won't get into because that's not as fun. But I'm going to talk about R&D.
Yeah, and ultimately, again, one of our goals is to be as sustainable as possible. So for that distribution of cheese, it doesn't make sense to send 4,000 people an individual unit of cheese shipped individually with, a frozen gel in it. It's not nearly as effective as going through a retail distribution chain. The hot sauces are relatively low impact. It doesn't need to be refrigerated while it's shipped. Exactly. So it's again taking that into account.
The other thing I should mention that I forgot to is part of our entire mission is making plant-based food taste good and accessible to a lot of
Yeah.
people. So getting into bigger retailers is the easiest way to get product into people's homes.
Mhm.
E-commerce is less accessible. It's a higher sort of cost to participate for the customer.
Right. And then farmers markets are great, but even less accessible than e-commerce. So you got to be pretty much people aren't gonna.
It's a smaller radius.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um, what we're focusing on for the cheeses is going to be developing an aged cheese next, so like a brie camembert style. So that's something that we've been researching and have ordered the ingredients for development, and we're
Testing soon.
starting very soon on that. So that's exciting. And further down the road, I think we'd like to create as many products as people want and taste great and are again sustainable. So whether that's going into like a cured meat style capicola or prosciutto from plant-based ingredients, something that would complement the cheese. Uh, Probably a little bit further down the line, but yeah, for the short term, brie, camembert, and then I think we're also kind of toying around with the idea of doing a wine or port wash running cheese as well, whatever form that may take.
So more artisanal cheeses beyond sort of the fresh category.
Right, right.
And then for hot sauce, we're constant. Well, I say we. You lead this, but constantly
Right.
creating new kinds of hot sauce.
Yeah.
Using the same sort of techniques.
Right. So creating a good example is our Merchant of the Blank series, highlighting culinary traditions, trade routes around the world, sort of how flavor compounds and cultures have created what their niche is. So a good example for that would be like our Merchant of the River is a Thai hot sauce built around the floating markets of Thailand. So it's using all ingredients that you could find at a floating market. Kind of give people over here a little bit of a glimpse into something definitely out of the norm, even if people are, going to farmers markets. It's certainly not on canoes. So something a little bit more unique. But yeah, we've done, I want to say, 9 unique sauces this year so far. And we're on pace to do a total of, I want to say, somewhere between 20 and 24. So a very high degree of innovation and keeping something fresh and new that consumers can be excited about, while also producing the things that if you love the sauce, like I want you to be able to access it all the time. So
Yeah.
trying to figure out what our customers' favorites are and make sure those are always available while still innovating and doing some new one-offs and seasonal, depending on, heat of the summer. It's going to be a great time to do a peach hot sauce coming up soon. We're looking with working with a local farmer on getting some dewberries. So
And the hot sauces are all small batch. So once we rotate through
right,
till we restart that fermentation process on that pepper base, like it's not gonna come back around. So
yeah,
it's easier to keep doing new
iterating, yeah,
flavors, which is kind of one of kind of the strategy behind the brand.
yeah, absolutely.
And then cheese, we're really trying to hone in our core flavors and then just make the product as good as it can be.
Yeah,
Yeah, slightly different R&D.
yeah.
Well, I gotta say, I'm impressed. I feel like I can really sense the passion and like the thought behind everything. That's really awesome. Like the merchant kind of series that you mentioned, I think that's a really great idea.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's like we talked about earlier. Like I grew up watching Food Network and seeing all these faraway places and interesting, kind of culinary traditions. It's cool to be able to hopefully encapsulate that and let other people try it.
That's awesome. So We've been talking very positive overall. Now it's just a little bit maybe negative. But what has been kind of your biggest failure? But then to put a positive spin on it, what did you kind of learn from that experience? And you can tie it directly into the business, or you can think back a little bit further.
Hmm.
Do you want to start or you want me to?
Yeah, so I think early stages, my biggest failure was not lending myself or my business the right amount of time that it really takes. You know, starting a business, I was working a full-time job, volunteering part-time, really limiting the amount of time each week that I had to go sell at a farmer's market or even, apply and get permitting for farmer's market. So, making the jump to making this my full-time focus and really giving myself the bandwidth to do so. If you're serious about starting a business, obviously it's got to work financially. You got to be able to make sure you can continue eating and making car payments and dealing with the real world side of things. But um, if you really have something that you want to do, finding a way to get it done and devote as much of your time as possible to the mission is definitely crucial. I could have had an online business and sold, a 1 to 300 units a year and never really could grow. But yeah, focusing on the mission full time has definitely been the biggest step for prophecy.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest failure, I would say, at least with respect to this, is similar. I've not moved as quickly as I initially wanted to or planned to. Sometimes things take more time, and sometimes it's just easier to, I mean, not easier, but like Jake said, we both still have outside jobs, so we're not doing this 100% full time yet.
Right.
Um, but the best way to grow the business is to be working on it as much as possible,
Yeah.
as many hours a day as possible,
Yeah.
as many days a month, year as possible. So,
Yeah.
in order to grow, you have to really prioritize it.
Hmm.
For sure. I think that's definitely some good advice. I'm sure some of the viewers out there might be interested in starting a business, and that's something I think about as well. I mean, I know I'm in college and I have to focus on classes, but if the right idea comes
Yeah.
along, like I'm really excited about the idea of starting a business, and I would be happy to, rearrange my schedule and really devote
Right.
as much time to that as I could.
While you're in school, you sort of have the time to incubate a side project or,
School's a great time to, I mean, I
yeah.
don't think I would have started the cheese business if not for being in my MBA. It gave me like extra time in my day, but also the resources, the support, and you have an amazing community, especially here at Rice. Um, really, all of Houston as well behind you, um, which is super helpful. So,
Yeah.
great time.
It's already in an educational format. And I think that's where I was able to develop with the fermentation knowledge. So much of the brewing industry is information sharing based and definitely focused on, different areas of fermentation and different styles, but sharing information and co-educating. So I think really that time of learning can be a good incubation period for sure.
Awesome. Well, hopefully the right idea comes
Yeah.
along, and I have the time ready to get into it.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited. So one of my absolute favorite things to learn about from my podcast guests is their habits, because I think habits are something that's really important. We do it every day, and over time, the effects of those habits can really compound. But I also think most people don't really take the time to think about their habits. They kind of just do them. And I think it's really important to take that time to reflect on them and make sure that your habits are aligned with your goals. So, what are some habits that you guys have developed, whether it was during your MBA or in prior education, or maybe now in your business, that you think have been a big part of your success?
I can start. I'll
Yeah.
say everyone should read Atomic Habits by James Clear. One of the best books I've ever read, but mostly because I'm someone who has always been, I would say, chasing better habits, but haven't always kept up with changes I've made in the past. And he really, I mean, you'll learn a lot from that book, but he really shifted my mindset that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, that whenever you want to improve a habit, find the smallest way to build it into your day. Habit stack, 1 minute is better than 0 minutes. 1% improvement every day. So I think honestly, one of the greatest things about entrepreneurship is your schedule really is your own. So even though you're working more, I think my mindset has shifted from like working 5 days a week and set hours, 2 days off to working every day, but you get some time off every day. Which means I've been exercising a lot more, which I think has been really positive, and is instrumental to my mental health and productivity. I've really tried to reframe it as like it's a part of my work because my work suffers if I'm not getting some time outside or some exercise. That's a big one for me. Other stuff that I started really during my MBA is I sleep with my phone outside my room. It's plugged in another room. I try not to touch it for as long as possible in the morning. Even if I have to check email, like I'll try and check on my laptop instead because as soon as I pick up my phone, there's social media and a million distractions that don't help. And then I sleep and wake up with a regular alarm clock too, like an analog alarm clock. For the same reason, because my phone's away, so I can't use that as my alarm.
Yeah,
Like both of those have been great for me.
phone time can definitely be an absolute black hole. And even if you're on your business's Instagram page trying to learn something or create a post or share something with people, it
Yeah.
can very quickly devolve. I think in my transition from working for someone else full time to working for myself or working on our business full time with a part-time job, switching that, what I've kind of changed is not approaching life from a attitude of subsisting and trying to enjoy what I have, but how to improve habits and improve my productivity, my capability, my output um, for myself. Because just subsisting or persisting is not enough. You have to be growing and developing and getting better and better if you want to have a successful business. So I think a lot of it for me has come in the form of this is my biggest area to improve right now is I was doing a very physically laborious job and disc golfing or playing basketball or surfing or doing something in San Diego. Working about 45 hours a week, manual labor, and then still getting out about twice a week. Whereas here, I'm like, it doesn't, it's not as laborious making, also cheese.
Work wise, I mean, other than the farmers markets,
Yeah,
at home on our computers or standing in the kitchen at a
right,
table
right.
doing production.
Definitely something realize how important it is to focus on self-improvement instead of just enjoying moments in life. I think, at least for me, the biggest step that's come in the hot sauce side of things has been note taking. That's the one real habit that it's great to be riffing and be as creative as you want at home and I made this sauce, I did this, but unless you understand your process, how you're approaching, maybe you fermented pineapple in this sauce the first time, and then you realize you didn't want a fermented pineapple. Just whatever the path is, write it down. It makes a huge difference in being able to iterate and create and develop those skills for if we're doing a brand new sauce on a production scale for the first time, having those notes to look back on how other similar things have behaved and tasted and what dosing rates to apply to a new product. So yeah, writing stuff down, getting off the phone and trading in a little Netflix time for audiobook time has been helpful for me.
Yeah. The one last thing I'll add is I think this has always been natural to me, but it's really come in handy as an entrepreneur is just researching everything. Like
Yeah.
anytime you're interested in something, try and make it a part of your day to learn more.
Yeah.
Podcasts, audiobooks, like following smart people on LinkedIn and seeing what
Conversations with people in person. You can learn
Yeah.
something from
talking to experts from
probably
LinkedIn.
everyone you meet, whether it's helpful or not.
And then even just like you would be, I mean, you can literally learn anything online at
Yeah.
this point. Like I knew nothing about cheese making 2 years ago. Everything I know has been either reading cookbooks or self-taught from research. So yeah.
Same. I did go to a formal
You studied
education for brewing, but for the other fermentation, it's just been a lot of trial and error and research and learning from others.
Awesome. Well, I definitely agree with the habit about the phone. Like when I was in high school, I had a setup where like my phone could charge in the perfect position where I could lay in bed and watch my phone. Yeah, that's bad. So
Charge away.
yeah, I realized that was bad. So we're going to college now. I don't keep the phone out of the room, but I charge it on the other end of the bed.
Yeah,
So I have to plug it in and then get into bed.
right.
different if you're living in a dorm.
Yeah.
There's less space to work with, but still creating some physical distance from it.
Right. And it also forces me to get out of bed to turn off the alarm as well.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's been a really positive change, I think. And then
Yeah.
another one I definitely agree with is writing things down. Like one of my like kind of habits that I've developed is every time I think of a business idea, I always write it down. Just I'm constantly thinking of business ideas. I mean, like I really want to make my own business one day. I'm really excited about, creating new value or pursuing new ideas. So anytime I'm thinking about it or having a conversation with other people and we come up with something, always write it down. And at this
Yeah.
point, I have this giant log in my phone. Of
Yeah.
probably
As long as
hundreds.
it's somewhere, somewhere you can access it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And something I wanted to go back to is you mentioned like once you started a business, you realize that it's really important to kind of always improve yourself rather than just kind of subsisting and remaining complacent. So with that, like how would you say you guys have changed as a result of starting your own business and now are kind of you're the face of it, you're the driving force. Like how has that changed your kind of outlook?
Um, I think for me it's been realizing that certain experiences in life need to be more in the form of luxuries than uh, common experiences. So certain sacrifices in terms of as a brewer, I really enjoyed meeting up with my coworkers and friends and going out to breweries and whatnot. Um, right now, the mission is to create these products and learn and grow our business. And sacrifices, uh, the first at least cut come in the form of going out and spending money and enjoy. And that's not to say like don't go out and enjoy life. Like you need to be in a place where you can create and continue to improve. But yeah, from a time and money perspective, definitely cut out some, you know, maybe not as essential activities.
So I mean, if we spend less money now, but that's just because we have way less. Everything goes into the business.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is, like everyone talks about this. Any founder you listen to them speak, they'll talk about how mentally challenging entrepreneurship is. You really don't understand that, or at least I didn't until you're in it. It's very isolating. It's a very hard, like the highs and lows are complete waves. So if you're in a low spot, you have to just keep barreling through. So I think for me, it reminded me that I have to protect my mental health and do everything I can every single day to support it. So whatever that means for you personally, for me, I mean, there's a lot. But so yeah, that's why I'm really trying to like get outside every day, even if it's a 30-minute walk. If that's all the workout I can fit in, that's great. Cooking healthy food for myself, healthy food foremost makes a big difference for me.
Yeah.
I think like not going out all the time, but I've had to be a lot more intentional with maintaining my friendships and relationships.
Yeah.
Like during business school, I'm with my friends all the time in class, like going out, studying, whatever. Now it's basically just us in our house.
The cats.
The cats. So siblings work together, live together, so it's a lot of time. but yeah, making sure I try and communicate with my friends and keep in touch with them, even if I'm really too busy to do much.
Yeah.
Putting in that time to maintain relationships can help with, how isolating it can feel.
You have to be in the right place to continue working because it
Right.
is a lot of work. So,
Right. If you don't take care of yourself, your work
Yeah.
will not get done. And
Right.
when it's just you, there's no one else to do it.
Yeah.
So it matters.
There's
Matters a lot.
yeah, all the accountability falls on you, and again, creating those habits and developing your personal capabilities beyond what they were yesterday, a week ago, a month ago, um, to allow yourself to have a higher capacity and output.
Mm. Awesome. Definitely great advice. I think about those things as well, but I mean, I haven't lived it yet. And so I know it will be a challenge, but
Mhm.
I'm kind of trying to prepare myself right now. Like my general kind of philosophy and approach to college is I'm just using this time as an opportunity to become the best person to pursue the idea so that when the idea comes, when I have the right founding team, then I'll be the right person and ready to carry
Right.
it to whatever heights it may reach.
Absolutely.
College should be fun too. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna go and spend 4 or 5 years, a ton of money, like study hard, learn as much as you can, but you should also have fun because you really don't get that period of life back where
Yeah.
your own, where hopefully, if you're fortunate, your only real concerns are like your classes and you
Yeah.
get to enjoy being social and learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having the financial freedom to be in college and not many of my
Not always
friends.
free, but
Well, yeah, but having the time to go out and enjoy, whereas like
fewer responsibilities for most people.
in my work life, like knowing some people who have been in school while working, if you have the time and the freedom to enjoy, like it's the time to do it. You
Yeah,
know,
you should do it.
you shouldn't miss out on too many experiences, but yeah, because there definitely comes time to strap down and focus for sure. So.
So now I want to ask you guys a little bit, maybe a heavy hitter type of question. It's comes from Peter Thiel in his book Zero to One. And Peter Thiel, just for the viewers that may not know, was part of the PayPal mafia. Was part of Palantir. First outside money in Facebook.
Crazy resume.
Crazy
Yeah,
resume.
yeah.
One of the
All right.
most,
Yeah.
one of the most successful venture investors of all time,
Right.
if not the most. So in his book, he opens with this question, which is, what is an important truth that you believe that most people disagree with?
And in the context of that, like something that actually is true that most people just misunderstand.
More like from a moral perspective, like there's not necessarily a right or wrong, but it's just something that you believe and most people don't.
Yeah. While I firmly and foundationally believe that personally, I don't ever want to tell people what they should be doing in their personal lives, how they should be living. We're not, and unfortunately, a lot of the plant-based or vegan community is if you're not this, then you're not a good person. If you're not, I don't subscribe to any of that. That's BS. We want to create something that people enjoy, whether it's when their vegan friends are over or every day of their life. But that said, there is a significant difference in the way you produce food, what kind of food you produce that has a very, very big impact on the environment. And probably the easiest thing that most of us could do to improve, where the planet's headed in the future is by incorporating a little bit more plant-based food into their life, or even just cooking at home more instead of buying prepackaged, shipped foods. If you're buying something closer to home or making it yourself, reducing your impact on the environment is very, very important. I think a lot of people may say, "Oh, I drive a Tesla, so I can eat McDonald's, 5 times a week." It's probably the easiest thing that most people could do.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that I don't think animals are meant to be used by humans, that they have their own lives to live. That or I should talk about politics, probably not, but I would say our country would be better off if everyone came back to the middle and was less sort of polarized and adversarial when it came to politics. Like we just won't get anything done that way, and I think being centrist or being able to see the other side's position and understand where they come from and understand that we all have lived very different experiences, which is what guides our views, we would actually be able to get more done.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of truth and what people believe and misbelieve or misunderstand or don't understand, I think politics can sway you so heavily to create your zone of understanding and experience in the world. Um,
Yeah, it can really limit your view lately.
Absolutely, absolutely. It can limit the information that's coming in on social media, on news articles that are recommended to you. So going back to research, like trying to figure out,
And talking and learning from people whose views are different from your own, I think is
yeah,
critical.
yeah,
And is something we have fewer and fewer opportunities to do.
yeah.
So
Expanding that sort of sphere of understanding.
yeah. Something I have to think about often lately.
Also, yeah, this is a new question. This is only the second
Okay.
time I've asked this,
Mhm.
so I'm really like excited to hear you guys.
That's a good answer. Why don't you from
No, that was great answers. I think it was really inspiring that you guys are like truly living like the plant-based lifestyle and like truly like passionate about it, making your business. Like the fact that that was your answer, it really kind of tied everything together.
And we're not perfect by any means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also to say we don't believe in absolutism. Like I still eat a little bit of cheese, and it's for me more about reducing my overall impact instead of creating this, perfect scenario, which is not in line with reality. Like you need to enjoy life, and people are. It's a very very nuanced thing, but people are brought up in understanding the world in a certain way through probably no fault of their own. It's how you're raised and what you're exposed to. But yeah, I think a lot of people could give plant-based foods more of a shot.
Also, well, should we try some plant-based foods?
Let's. Yeah, we brought. We'll start with cheeses. A number of little samples here.
You brought a whole.
Oh, well, yeah, brought the thread. Don't worry. So for the cheeses, again, these are spreadable style chevre. If you want to kind of give a little intro to what we have.
We say they're like a chèvre or boursin, so spreadable. When they melt, they can melt that to a sauce or kind of soften in form rather than they're not that like stringy and clunky cheese.
I've overdone it.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, still samples,
You can like line it up for the camera if you want.
Yes,
Or
yeah.
just
Let's get other people's products out of there. We're gonna get ours as a little zone.
I think the best way to try the cheeses is still plain.
Yeah. So we have some crackers here, some toast points.
You ever eaten on this podcast before?
I haven't. This is my
Yeah.
first time.
All right.
You'll have to see if you want to keep it in for auditory purposes, but cut it out. But
Yeah. So here are the little toast points, and then our black truffle and pepper jack cheeses. So black truffle is pretty self-explanatory. We use some shaved Italian summer truffles in that, not a truffle flavoring, not a truffle oil, but real shaved truffles. And then we also wanted to create something that has a little bit of nostalgia and familiarity. I think that's definitely one component of the pepper jack that works really well. It's our version of a pepper jack, which that didn't take too much brain power to figure out, but something that people have probably had before and already enjoy in our format. So feel free to.
allergies, Sam.
No allergies for you.
Go for it. And wait, what hot sauces did you bring?
Yeah, let's maybe do the cheeses first.
Okay.
And we can kind of talk a little bit about what's in the cheeses while you're going through and
Yeah.
trying them. So we use a base of cashew, cannellini bean, coconut yogurt, and then we have some I would say like flavor adjusters in there, which are nutrition. Some
Yeah.
yeah, all natural. By flavor adjusters, I mean like controlling the salinity and the acidity in the product. So lemon juice and
This is good. Oh, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go through the whole ingredient list.
Okay, but yeah, the point is using all natural ingredients to create a product that tastes good.
Minimally processed,
Yeah.
cultured like dairy,
Hmm.
has protein like dairy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, pepper jack's actually my favorite cheese.
Okay.
And this is perfect to start off with.
So how does it stack up? Now you're drinks, right?
No, it like stacks up closer than I would have expected, to
Okay.
be honest. Like I like seeing pepper jack cheese in that form is kind of different
Right.
for me.
Right.
At least like the springs and
How it looks and functions is slightly different
Right.
in our like prototype stage that we're at.
Yeah.
yeah, but no, it tastes really good. Yeah, it tastes like you would expect from any kind of pepper jack cheese.
That's very good to hear.
Awesome.
Are you a hot sauce person?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have brought a little lineup of a few different sauces. We have our Merchant of the Bayou, which is going to be our Louisiana style hot sauce base that we added some Cajun herbs and spices, sort of crawfish boil inspired. I brought that because I think it's a good example of how fermentation can allow you to create a hot sauce that isn't just straight heat and vinegar,
Mhm.
but something that has the lactic acid that is created during fermentation is a very fruity, kind of reads as a soft acidity. So it's a lot more pepper flavor forward than just a straight peppers and vinegar hot sauce. Then we brought one of our new sauces, which is going to be coming out just as this episode debuts, I believe. Collaboration with a brewery out in Las Vegas, brewery and bottle shop called Beer Zombies. We did a dry hopped hot sauce or like a beer infused hot sauce. So we dry hopped the vinegar that we used in it. We used some of their West Coast IPA. And then we did like a sort of jalapeno beer mustard. And then one of our newest, Merchant of the High Sea, is a tepache inspired hot sauce. So tepache is a fermented Mexican beverage consisting of, at least the modern interpretation, is pineapple, cinnamon, a little bit of clove, some lime. So yeah, that's what's in there. And then we did base of habanero and yellow bell pepper from that on that.
So we started sauce.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Sounds like a try.
Yeah. I mean, I'll try all of them
Okay.
as long as one doesn't take me out if it's too spicy.
Save the Beer Zombies collab for last. That one
That's the hottest.
it's got a good kick to it. This I think would work really well on its own on a spoon or with some of the pepper jack.
What we tried.
True.
Here's the tepache. Normally we're pulling these out of a
Awesome.
squeeze bottle.
Do you want to assemble up a little one of our sample bites that we do at the markets?
No, you should just try them. Let's see.
It's good. It's not too spicy at all for me, though. But
I think that one's balanced a little bit by the sweetness from the pineapple. One of the ingredients that I forgot to mention is in tepache they'll use panela or piloncillo sugars, which is an unrefined sugar product. We actually went and used sort of in the theme of tree root and whatnot. So it's all ingredients from around the Pacific. So we used a Okinawan black sugar in that one. But yeah, really cool, kind of all over ingredients from that. And then this is just classic Louisiana style hot sauce, but a lot less vinegar. And then we added some Cajun herbs and spices, lemon, garlic, and awesome.
oh, that's good. I like that one a lot. This is like the kind of hot sauce that I would.
You could put on kind of everything,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whether it's, wings or nuggets or a sandwich, seafood boil, whatever it is, in soup. That one's definitely a little bit more versatile. Fly to the Undead, which is the collaboration sauce that we did, is definitely a little bit more specialty and unique, and that maybe a little bit more strain. But you could enjoy it on anything, but yeah. Yeah.
This one kind of, not to shout out the competitors or anything, but it sort of reminds me of Cholula. It reminds me of Cholula.
Yeah. Okay.
I think in rice they have Cholula available,
Yeah.
so that's my kind of go-to.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a sauce that a lot of people have tried and tend to have an affinity for. Got a good flavor profile.
All right, this is the spicy one.
It's the hottest we have here. Yeah.
Okay.
And we used a blend of 7 different peppers in that one. So from jalapeno and poblano, we used some Carolina Reaper, we used some Scotch bonnet, some habanero, some shishito. I think that's all of them. They're all on the label.
Yeah, no, that one's really good as well. It's not too spicy for me.
Okay.
I can handle
Okay.
it. It's really nice.
Yeah. That one's the other peppers definitely provide different flavors or different like styles of heat, whether it's up front, whether it lasts a long time. So if you're throwing 7 different peppers in a sauce, it's like it starts up front and it carries through every stage for sure. Yeah.
I'll say all our sauces sit around at medium.
Okay.
Vary a little bit. Some are a little milder, some
Right.
are hotter, but
We want to have something available for everyone, regardless of heat level. But again, we want them all to be, all of our sauces are always going to be a base of fermented peppers, and enjoyable heat level. There's going to be some that are on the high end of that for sure, but for the most part, I want you to be able to like actually put the sauce on your food and continue eating it instead of like just trying. And like we'll have some gimmick sauces for special events, anniversary, and whatnot.
by that you mean crazy hot sauces.
Right. Not like it's a joke, but the heat level is not intended to be an everyday experience. Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, growing up, one of my kind of go-to meals before I started cooking
Mhm.
was a bowl of rice with cheese and like hot sauce. So this is actually a great combination.
Okay. Yeah.
And it really like for me it kind of takes me back to awesome my schooling.
Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely. We would do beans and rice, black beans and rice with cheese and some hot sauce for sure. That was a staple, and honestly, it
We still
still yeah, creeps back in. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoy.
Yeah, overall. Good. Should I try the truffle on this?
Yeah.
it's problem for you, so you can try them hard. I'm later up to you, but
Okay.
Monday
I
plan.
might as well try it now.
Okay.
And if you want, we also have a little basil and slice it to tomato. Like crazy situation. Crazy.
Yeah.
It is good to be able to get the taste of it independent of any accoutrement.
We do these little bites at farmers markets now just to do the same, like showing people it in practice.
How they could use it in their daily life.
Great. We find it helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Give people ideas and
Yeah.
just show them again way to enjoy it.
Oh, this one's good as well. I don't really eat like truffle. I'm not that fancy.
Truffle person.
Yeah.
But this is good.
It can be certainly a divisive or polarizing flavor profile for sure.
Yeah, it's we find it people either love it or hate it.
Yeah, like Brussels sprouts. It's definitely
Yeah.
a divided pool.
Yeah. But probably the richest flavor profile. But
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for bringing some food onto the podcast.
Yeah.
Again, like the first time I've ever eaten anything on the podcast.
Yeah.
There's another podcast out there called Hot Ones.
Oh yeah.
They eat like spicy wings.
Mhm.
Maybe you could do your own kind of podcast with the prophecy sauce.
I don't see our own podcast coming out. I would love to see us as part of the Hot Ones show. I think that's
That would
something
be
that
awesome. Yeah.
we'll approach sort of maybe towards the end of the year. I think they just rolled out their current season of sauces, but some other local producers like Severe Foods have been able to get on Hot Ones, and it's definitely been a great boost in business for them. So
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be
A dream goal.
yeah, end of the year goal,
Yeah.
but a dream for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'd love to see how our sauces kind of stand up against some of the other ones on that show, flavor and heat wise. So that'd be cool.
Awesome. Well, now we're almost out of time, so we're gonna go into kind of the last two questions
Okay.
of today. So the first of those is, what is something you want to tell me?
It's a good question. Um, Something that we want to tell you and maybe all of our viewers.
Well, the viewers is the second question.
Oh, okay.
I can answer that one. I'd say if you're interested in entrepreneurship and you're trying to find ideas, the best thing to do is, I mean, we already know this from class, but look for problems in the world. The more a problem bugs you, probably the better it is to focus on that because you're gonna live and breathe whatever it is you're working on. So if you're solving something that you personally feel is important, it's a lot easier to stick with than a general problem that you don't have as much familiarity with. But anytime you see a problem, the more people it frustrates, the better potential it's got
For growth at least.
for any success. I mean,
Yeah.
it goes back to that building things that people want
Right.
approach. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and then the last question is, what is something you want to tell the viewers?
Where to find us? How to get our product? So we're at a number of local farmers markets, which if maybe a lot of your viewers are Rice students, we do one in Rice Village every first and third Sunday. We have another farmers market that's on the opposite Sundays, second and fourth Sundays. We call it Heights Mercantile Market. And then for the hot sauces, you can find us at prophecyhotsauce.com, Prophecy Hot Sauce on Instagram, and same for Berman Foods. It's bermanfoods.com and at Berman Foods on Instagram. So
Yeah, and even more than coming just to find us at farmers markets, I would say it's always fun to eat local when you can find good stuff
definitely.
because, yeah, I think we don't do that as much as we ideally would as a society right now, and I think we'll see a bit of a return to more locally focused brands and concepts. But
Yeah.
we have some really awesome food makers here in Houston,
Yeah.
both products and restaurants. So the more you can eat around here, the better.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a lot of fun for me. Just
Thank you.
learning about, your adventure through your own business, trying some cheese and some hot sauces. It's been a lot of fun. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah.
That concludes this episode of the Data Room. Thanks for watching.
Bye.